Well, welcome. Tonight, we're going to talk to somebody who we never think about until something happens to our roads, our water. You know, it's one of these things, you're kind of like the IT person. As long as the network's working, we don't think about you. The minute there's a big pothole in front of my house, it snows, an ice storm, you become the most popular guy in town.
One way or the other.
Why don't we start with an introduction?
Hi, I'm Scott Crisafulli, highway surveyor for the town of Milford. Been there employed there for 30 years, been a highway surveyor almost 18 years now.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. Yep. Time flies.
I remember the first election.
Long time ago.
Now, I'd ask you, highlight what happened this winter, but did we have a winter?
Well, I did. The highway department did. We didn't get a lot of snow. We didn't get any big snowstorms. We had a lot of, winter events, I'll call them. You know, more ice, 1 to 2 inch snowstorms, one after another. I think the total was about 16 or 18 inches of snow. Not a lot. Mostly salt treated and ice melt treated storms. You get 1 or 2 inches, it's a call. You're either going to plow or you're going to salt it out. It's one or the other. And for the most part, we used materials this year because main reason, shortage of plows, shortage of operators, shortage of employees. Been a huge problem.
Now, you ruined my outlook on snow more than a decade ago when you came and told me that it was back then $10,000 to $12,000 an inch to clean Milford.
Call that pre-COVID, because it's not that anymore. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, that was just a general number we would use because we know we would be at.
But it was huge. You know,
Yeah.
you think about, it's a couple $1,000s, and then you realize how many miles of road you have to plow, and the 10 to 13,000 seemed, I won't say reasonable, but acceptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it this way: if you divide that 10,000 an inch by the amount of roads we plow, it's actually not that much money.
Still feels like a lot of money.
Think about your driveway. What does it cost to plow your driveway? Your driveway's, 50, 60, 70 feet long. It's going to cost you almost $100 a storm, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty similar.
So now, over the years that you've come on the show, you've talked about the trends. Brine, all sorts of different salts. What's the latest and greatest now?
So the biggest thing that I'm seeing now is salt brine. A lot of towns make their own liquid salt brine. Very easy product to make. It's more of a pre-treating product. So if we know it's going to snow tonight, conditions are going to be right, we're going to go out and pre-treat roads. And what that does is it stops the snow from sticking to the asphalt. It gives you a little bit more time to get out and do the work. So if you're having a 5 a.m. snowstorm, that's rush hour, it's a nightmare. So if we can at least get the roads to melt a little bit before we get there, which that will happen, and the brine will stick on the road for the first few rounds of plowing and sanding and stuff. So you don't have to treat. Well, actually, you don't have to sand because you don't have to treat. So it saves a little bit of money. It gives us time to get going. And it will help in a rush hour situation when, people got to get to work and it's not instant slippery. You get time. So it buys time.
When you say make your own brine, salt, water mixed?
Yeah, water and salt. Goes through a process, through a brine machine, and you have liquid salt.
A brine machine? A big mixer?
Basically, you can put like 1 bucket of salt in it to so many gallons of water, mixes it up. You can put it in a storage tank. You keep storing it, and then you use it on your trucks, or you use it on onboard spreaders, or you pre-treat within tanks. You can add other ice melts to a calcium if you really want to spike it and make it work better. Magnesium, beet juice, apple juice. There's all these different organics that you can add to it that cause it to stick. You want it to stick to the road.
But now, help me understand, calcium. It works better, but doesn't it also corrode faster?
Yeah, it's calcium is. We used to use calcium, liquid calcium, in all our trucks. The damage it did, It's not worth it. It destroys every pump on every truck that has to spray it. All the fittings, the trucks, the frames, everything gets destroyed. It's very powerful rust agent for sure.
That's what I was thinking, saying calcium will work better. Yes, it will.
Mm-hmm.
And it will work better on your trucks and everything else that it touches.
Yeah. We use a product now. We don't have the brine system yet. That's a future thing that, once we're trying to put a new salt shed, and once that shed is in, we'll work to a brine system. But we use another product, which is mostly organic materials. It's some kind of mulch. I'm not exactly sure from what forest or what it is. It's a mulch. And it's added to a calcium mix, and there's a secret product in there they don't tell us. But it's an onboard sprayer, and it comes out of the truck brown, and it foams on the road. So if you go through any intersection in a snowstorm in Milford, you will see brown foam. And sometimes we get called that someone spilled something, oil. We get calls a lot, but it's not. It's actually organic material with calcium in it.
Now, a new barn, didn't we just fix the old barn?
Right, I'll start with that story. So our barn was built in 1985. It was a state-funded salt shed. I don't think the town paid for it. And we had roof panels blown off. Now, granted, it was built in 85. It's had salt in it since 1985, which is corrosive on everything, the nails in there, everything. So the roof started coming off. So we were going to do a roof. So we raised money at town meeting to replace the metal roof. By the time we got companies in there to bid the job and actually look at it, a few of them were like, we really don't want to go on this roof. We want you to have a mechanical engineer's stamp on this, because that roof trusses may not be any good. We just want to make sure everything's safe before we go up there. So we had the engineers come in, and structural engineer, I'm sorry. We had them come in, and they went through the whole building. They said, you need to take the roof trusses off. They need to be replaced. The plates that hold the trusses together were coming apart. I said, can't we just throw a couple screws in them? They're like, no, you can't do that. That's to me, I don't know anything about that, but yeah, can't do that. So I said, so now we're talking roof and trusses. I said, so what about the rest of the building? They said, well, here's the problem. You pull those trusses off, there's a possibility the walls are going to blow out, and you're not going to fix that. You're going to have to replace the building. So they advised me to look into a new building, get it done correctly. This is not worth messing with. So that's what stopped the roof repairs. I had to use some of that money because more of the panels keep blowing off the roof, so I've been doing temporary repairs to it. So we raised that money at town meeting for a new salt shed. We're going to get a salt shed that is going to be a tent. It's going to be a tent dome. Very inexpensive. I think the one we're looking at is twice the size of the salt shed we have, and it's $380,000 complete. So I think I raised $500. Some of that's going to go into a lot of the excavation work we have to do.
The prep work for the site.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to get an engineer on it too, just for permitting and stuff. So, but we hope to have that up before winter. So what'll happen is we'll put that shed up. It's at a different location in the yard. Take the salt that we have out of that shed, load it in the new shed, take the old shed down. So we're going to do it in kind of a steps like that.
Now, what is a truss?
Truss is what holds your roof up. Roof raft is similar, what your roof is actually sitting on. So a truss is a prefabbed roof. It's the prefab roof parts that go up that the roof sits on.
So it's a skeleton that
Yeah.
the roof sits on.
Yeah, it's not a stick-built roof which would be rafters. It's rafters built all as one unit on a truss. It's a truss. So the price to do that was, to rebuild that roof and do what we're doing would have been just about the same amount as the new shed we're putting up.
Wow.
So it really wasn't the way to do it.
Now, it's always amazing because you think about preserving salt. Well, the salt shed is open. How come it doesn't let the water in and dissolve the salt away?
It's pitched out so no water can go in, but it's supposed to have a door on it. The new one will. The one we have used to have a door on it. The track's all rotted, the hinges rotted, everything fell apart, and the door came down. And, just time.
Well, what do you expect? You fill a building with salt, you're going to get some of.
You walk in the building, there's salt air in there for sure. You can taste the salt, definitely.
Now, there's always the question, because we've had years where, didn't we buy our own trailer to haul salt?
Yes. So, salt prices have gone up. They're probably up almost 50% in the last 5 years. But before that, we bought the truck for a few reasons. Availability. If we ran out of salt and we had another snowstorm coming a day later, we would not be able to get salt. They don't have enough trucks to haul the salt to you. These salt yards are huge. They service, the whole eastern side of the state. We couldn't get it. They do not allow small trucks in there because they get in the way, and the loaders that load them are huge, and trucks are too small. So I asked one of my salt companies that we use if I had a tractor trailer, can I bring it in here? You can bring it in here anytime you want. You can haul all the salt you want with a tractor trailer only. That's all they allow. I said, so what's the difference in price? He says it would be anywhere from $8 to $10 a ton difference in price. Each truck holds 30 ton, each truckload. It's $300 a truckload we save. Now, when you start adding the numbers up, we use about 5,000 to 7,000 ton of salt a year.
7,000 tons?
Yes. Yep.
That's a lot of salt.
It is a lot of salt. So when you do the numbers and start to realize how much that truck can actually save, and I'm not telling you we haul salt 100% of the time. If there's long breaks with no storms coming, we'll have the companies do it. We have the time. But it's nice to be able to do it ourselves.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
you sold us on funding that truck for, I won't say emergency, but for tight situations.
When we can't get salt. I have to say, a shout out to Brutus and Franklin DPW. He has twice bailed us out with salt when we ran out. We had to go to his yard, pick up salt, and bring it to our yard before we had the truck. So he has enough storage that he could help us out like that.
Oh, that's nice.
So he's been very generous that way. And now that we have this truck, we've never had to do that. The truck keeps us supplied. The truck does everything now. I mean, we use it daily. It goes out hauling our leaves when we stockpile across town. Instead of using 5, 6-wheel trucks to haul all the leaves up to Asylum Street, we use the trailer. One guy, one truck. Much, much more efficient. We managed to get a low bed from Mass DOT. A low bed is what you would haul equipment on. So when we have to take a machine to, Western Mass to get fixed, like our John Deere tractors, I don't have to call a trucking company at, $900 a trip to go do it. We just load on a trailer, take it ourselves. We do a lot of business in New Hampshire with a truck body company, so we're always hauling trucks back and forth for different add-ons and stuff. So we use it for that. Our sweeper, hauling our paver around town now. We use it for everything. It's been very, very handy. Very, very great piece of equipment to have. It's definitely working out.
So now, how do you work the purchasing of salt? You say 7,000 tons. But if you commit to 7,000 tons and then, oops, no winter, what happens to the salt?
I don't stock 7,000. The most I can stock, I think, is 1,700 at a time.
But that's still, if you can buy the salt, is it always available?
So we're in a consortium with the town of Framingham and all the surrounding towns. The consortium's pretty big. There's a lot of towns in it, so the prices are very cheap compared to other towns around here. I mean, we don't pay a lot for salt compared. I mean, we pay a lot, but not compared. So every year they ask us how many ton we would want before they put it out to bid. I always put 5,000 to 6,000. If I needed 7, I could get 7, as long as they don't run out. So I put 5,000 to 6,000. So Milford is basically based on 5,000 to 6,000 ton. This year, I don't think we hit 5,000. So,
but we still used close over 4.
Right. I could purchase that salt up to a certain time at last year's rate. But sometimes the price comes down. So it's a gamble. You know what I mean? I've done it when I knew the salt was gonna go up. We knew it was gonna go up. The salt companies were overstocked, and they sent out letters saying, you guys want salt at last year's price, come get it, it's going up. And we did that, because that's what they paid for, and they want to get rid of it too. They don't want it sitting in the yard. So,
Where do you go to get the salt?
so typically the company that wins the bid has a couple different plants. They have one right in Boston, near the north end there, under the bridge. You can see the salt pile. They have another location in Quincy, which I go to Quincy. It's an easier ride for us. We go 95, south down to 3 to Quincy. So if you got to go the other place, you got to go Mass Pike through the city. It's a tougher ride, and there's tolls involved. The other way, there's no tolls. So sometimes there's also a place in Providence, but they always come in at second bidder. So Providence would be easy. It's right there. That's 45 minutes. So
And how much are you talking per ton?
Right now, we are at 72 or 74.
Well, that's substantially higher than it was a while back.
It was in the high 40s
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Has it been a steady climb, or is it just spiking?
It's the same as everything. After COVID, everything's just gone through the roof. The supply and the demand should be the same. It's the same every year. I would think maybe it'll drop this year. Maybe the price will drop because they do have extra salt sitting in their yards. So you wait and see, I don't usually know that till September. I get the pricing.
But now, when we have an ice storm, my assumption is that it's much more expensive to deal with than a snowstorm.
Yes, ice is basically constant salting, constant. You salt your root, you come back, load up. You salt your root, you come back, load up. It melts, keeps everything soft. You don't want it to get, you don't want hardened ice on the road. You can't do anything with that. So you got to keep it soft. So you just have to keep putting salt on it, and that's usually from freezing rain, ice, sleet. Those are the worst three things you can get. Absolutely tough
And now,
to deal
do you
with.
lay down salt, or do you lay down salt and dirt?
Just salt. We don't use sand anymore. That's an old school thing. Sand is not good for the environment, and neither is salt. Don't get me wrong, but sand, as far as stormwater, and all our EPA rules with stormwater, sand carries phosphorus, carries it through the system. It clogs the systems. So we got away from it. There's not many towns that use sand anymore. It's very rare. If you go out in Western Mass, they do. But in Western Mass, you're not going to have black roads. You're going to have hard packed roads, and you're going to drive on them like that. It's a little different than here. I think the people that travel in and out of Milford and commute is a lot, and they want to be in and out as quick and as easy as possible. So salt is the only way to do it.
So now, the Scotty trough. I remember when I was a kid, we used to drive up, and the people who worked at the highway department hated us, because we'd drive in and say, "That's my salt, I paid for it, give me some." And there was always the danger that one of these big front-end loaders is going to
Yeah.
scream
Scary
us.
place.
So you came out with, first, by Benny's, you had a pile of salt and dirt,
Yep.
and then you came out with a nice trough.
Yep.
So has the trough now got just pure salt in it, or?
No, we still use mix for the residents. Because salt it's not going to stop you from slipping as much as sand will help you from slipping. So if you're going to throw it in your driveway, you're better off to have sand in it. It's just that the cleanup on the streets, we have to clean up all the sand. And we have to truck that sand away. It's contaminated. It's considered contaminated. Lightly contaminated.
So it's hazardous waste?
Yes. Sand is hazardous waste. It has any chemicals from cars, any oils, chemicals, whatever's on the road is in that sand. We stockpile it, we test it, and then we decide where it has to be sent to, which landfill. So it has to be trucked away. That has to be trucked away, and all the catch basin cleanings have to be trucked away. Catch basin cleaners are a lot more dirty. This has happened in the last 10 years that we've had to do this. So now you have to lay the sand and salt down. You bought all that sand, now you got to pay to get rid of all that sand, and it's expensive. It costs me, between catch basins and sand, and we don't have a lot of sand because we don't use it, but catch basin cleaners are $40,000 to $50,000 a year to get rid of. These are all things over the years that have changed drastically.
Well, I remember when you had to double up on the number of times you cleaned the catch basins because of phosphorus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a regular thing now. All streets get swept twice, some get swept 3, 4 times. Catch basins, we are gonna eventually have to do them twice. We're still on the once a year thing. All basins get cleaned once a year, some get cleaned a few more times. But it's gonna have to jump up to the next level of twice, and that's another expense. You know, we sub out the catch basin cleaning, because for us to do it with one truck and one guy, it would take us a year to do every single catch basin. We got 3,500 of them. It would take a long time.
3,500 catch basins?
Yes. Yep. So we have a company come in, there's 4 or 5 trucks at a time, they whip through in a month, they get the whole thing done. But it costs us $12 to $14 a catch basin.
But now, to maintain them, I remember, I think it was Ivy Lane,
Mhm.
where a catch basin collapsed in on itself.
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot. Oh, you mean the big one that washed out the road?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a failed manhole. Years ago, they built manholes out of block.
Right.
So it's all blocks stacked up. And with the pressure of water coming down Stony Brook Lane, one of those blocks finally gave way and fell out. Now you have open earth. And that pressure of that water washed everything right. And once it starts, it's not stopping.
It's like
It
a
just-
dam busting.
Yeah, exactly. That was huge. That was a big mess. That was probably the second year I was highway surveyor. That was one of my big
Welcome to
big
Milford.
calls. Yeah. I got there, Channel 7 was already there waiting for me. Yeah, it was crazy.
How much maintenance is there involved in maintaining 3,500 manholes or catch basins?
Well, when the catch basin cleaning company comes out, they will fill out forms. If they find a basin that needs work, they will let us know what they see wrong with it. You know, it's missing blocks, bricks have fallen out of it, the frame is loose, whatever it is, they will let us know. So it goes on to our work order list, and we fix them when we can. It's constant. I mean, there's always catch basins and manholes to be fixed. It's never ending.
What's the difference between a catch basin and a manhole?
So a manhole is part of your drainage system that allows you to tie in other pipes or access pipes. Your catch basin is where the water goes down. It's the grade on the road. The water goes down, goes into the basin. The basin has a sump, collects all the dirt and leaves and anything that goes in there, and then the water goes out the pipe. Goes to a manhole and runs down the drainage system.
But now, doesn't the catch basin get full of leaves eventually?
Yeah, that's why you have to clean them every year.
Okay, so once a year is enough to keep them
For
flowing.
probably 97% of them. There's some that we need to clean more often because they're in low-lying areas where all the stuff ends up in a rainstorm. You know, all the debris, the leaves, the bark mulch. We get big storms. I've seen bark mulch go from School Street down to Haywood Street, a trail. So that's how far stuff. In a big storm, when you have washouts, it's crazy. So all that ends up in a catch basin, and we know the low-lying areas that we have to clean. You know. It's constant. We know where they are just from doing it forever. So
But now, as we look at maintenance, I think of a catch basin as there used to be big granite boulders or blocks that were just stacked one on top of the other. Were they cemented in? They're just stacked there?
stone drains, still all over town. They're everywhere. Those are the things that when people dig in the road and we know there's some in the area, we warn them. You're digging, you hit a pile of rocks and granite stones, don't dig it up. Don't touch it, because there is no cement. It is a pile of stones with a top on it, a granite top. It's just like they built it, like a stone wall, 2 stone walls on the top, and then they backfill it, and that's a drain. And they work great. But if you disturb them, it's a nightmare, because you can't put it back together.
So what do you do? How do you, if one block or two comes out before it becomes an Ivy Lane, what do you do?
You have to, when we start having sinkholes in places and we find those, we take out a section as gentle as possible. And we try to get a pipe and stick it in there. And then we'll concrete a collar around the pipe and the stone drain on both ends. We had an incident on one street this year where a utility company dug through one, never told us, never fixed it. And a house on the street got flooded pretty bad the next rainstorm. And we didn't know what happened, but we did see the trench down the road. And we didn't even know there was a stone drain there because they're not mapped. We have no idea where they are. You know, maybe some of the older timers that used to be here probably knew where they were. We have no idea. I know some of them, but not all of them. So I saw the trench. The house was flooded. Obviously, whatever drain they had around their house, perimeter drain, was no longer working. So the water backed up into the basement. And, you
Yeah,
know,
but a French drain is supposed to save you from your own gutters and all, not from a torrential downpour.
right, but if you've never got water in your cellar and all of a sudden they did work in front of your house and get water in your basement, you know there's something wrong, you know. So we had a pretty irate homeowner.
You think?
You know, and we immediately poked around. We saw the slightest little thing, a little rippling in the asphalt, and where water looks like it was coming out of the asphalt. So we dug there. Sure enough, there's a stone drain. Now across the street there is a trench running down the street. New trench, maybe a month or two old. Stone drain, heading that way, trench. They dug through it, automatic. We knew it right away. And so we called the utility, let them know what just happened. We dug the stone drain up just to make sure. Called them in, get your contractor in it, fix the stone drain, and you got to deal with the homeowner.
So now who's responsible for that? Is it the town or the utility or
The utility.
is it a urination contest that,
No, I mean, the utilities get it. They know if they cause damage, they have to take care of it. Typically, you know, you have the thing called dig safe. You're gonna dig in the street, you call it dig safe, they mark out all the
they
utilities.
put the little flags and,
Tell you where everything is. Nobody knows where the stone drains are. If I knew there was one there, I would have told them there was a stone drain running across the street. Now I know. You know? But we don't know. I can tell you where there's a few of them. And then there's these other, I guess they were water storage before we had fire hydrants. So back in the 1800s, we had big granite block holding tanks under the road. There's a couple of them around town. They're huge. You can walk right in them. They're still there. They don't hold water. Water's gone. But they used to be for the fire department, from what I understand, storage of water. But there's one in the center of Lincoln Square on Main Street. There's a huge one there. Right in the center of the street.
how did they access it?
I don't know. I'm not sure how it worked. It was definitely water storage, though. The craziest thing, you walk right in, it's all granite walls and granite. It's strange.
And it's still there today.
It's still there.
Isn't that dangerous?
If you're going to dig around it, it is. You got to be careful. But it's pretty solid. It's not going anywhere.
Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
'cause I was gonna say.
I mean, if we started having issues, we'd have to dig it up and backfill it. But,
right.
But the one on Lincoln Square has a stone drain going in and a stone drain going out. The drain is higher than the whole. It's the neatest thing. Technology back then was different, but it definitely worked.
Most emotional question. What streets are being done this year?
Well, I can tell you we're going to be starting South Main Street. We're going to be doing Beaver Street, believe it or not, a long time coming. All the projects are done up there. There's not going to be no more digging on the road. It's time to get Beaver Street done. I'm shooting to get intersections done this year. Fortune Boulevard, Dilla, and Cedar Street. That whole intersection has got to be done. Congress Street at Fountain Street intersection has got to be done.
You're going to be the most hated man at
I
rush
know,
hour.
I know, but I'm the haters man now because of the bumps and how awful it is. You can't win.
I was going to say.
Until it's done, everybody forgets. And, oh, I remember that. And Maple Street at 109. I'm sorry, Birch Street at 109. So these intersections, whenever we've paved, like I paved Cedar Street, it's hard to go through an intersection with that process. You're better off to stop before it and go back and do the intersections after. So that's what we're going to do. You have all the light sensors in the road. They all get dug up, so the lights are going to be out of whack until we finish. Just all the things that intersections cause. They're not straight shots. The machines have trouble working. It's a nightmare.
But
So
aren't you at the mercy of the utilities? I mean, it kills me sometimes when I see a beautifully done road, and then they
Kills
dig it
you.
up.
All right, so let's break the news here now. So, 2 years ago, we did Muriel Lane.
Yes.
Year before, we did Lynn Lane, and we did Harris Ave, and we did, what's the other road? Between Lynn and Harris. The gas company was advised to what we were doing a year in advance. They said they had no work to do. We did the roads. Full depth reclamation, right down to gravel, new grading, new curbings, new asphalt. They have to dig it up, the whole road. The gas
Why?
company's gonna be digging up Mary Lane, Lynn Lane, and Harris Ave. Because of the federal mandates with gas lines and gas stations, the way they set their natural gas stations up, everything has to be changed. They have mandates to do that. I'm doing my best to hold them off for 2 years, because we do have a 2-year moratorium in town. But they are really pushing to get it done, to the point where they want to pay for full repair of the roads, full new roads. So that's a negotiating
But
thing
see,
that we're kinda
that's
doing right
cool.
now.
What kills me is when I see a brand new road and then patched.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, what do you do when you do a road? You talk about full.
There's so many different options. A road that's completely failed, structurally failed, you got rutting, you're missing the shape of the asphalt, the road's not there anymore. Those need what's called full depth reclamation. A machine goes in, grinds the asphalt, the gravel down like 8 inches, everything turns into gravel. So you made the entire road into straight gravel.
So the average depth of the road is 8 inches?
No, asphalt's usually 4 inches for the most
Okay.
part. Should be 4 to 6 is what we see in town. We put back 4. That's
But when they
typical.
did my driveway, they said the best thing I can invest in is the base.
Yep.
That
Meaning the gravel
the gravel.
underneath. Yes, absolutely.
That if I cheap out on the gravel, I'm going to be bitten the keister sooner.
Yeah, frost is going to affect it. It's going to start cracking. Your driveway's going to fall apart. So when you do full depth, you're actually making probably the best gravel you could ever have. So when we do that, it all gets grinded, and so they grind the road down, then they regrind the road. So now they go down another 8 inches, take all that gravel, mix it into the base gravel. You have an absolute great gravel. They regrade it. We take out the extra material, reshape the road so water runs where it needs to go, stays in the gutters. We put a crown on it. Then we calcium it. Calcium holds the gravel together, keeps it stiff. That's one option, calcium. But we've also done a cement additive. So you can grind the road down to gravel, then you drive over and drop cement on it. There's a certain formula for whatever they test for. And they know how much cement to put down. So just cement. Lay that down, grind that in. So now you have gravel with cement in it. That hardens, but doesn't harden to a point where you can't dig in it, but it stiffens it up so it doesn't have any more movement. So we use that in wet areas, Bowden Drive area. The whole place is wet. It's clay, it's water, it's wet. So any road we do there, we add that cement additive. And I can tell you right now, we did Bowden Drive. It's got to be 6 years, 7 years. I bet there's one crack on that road, which is unbelievable. So the road, the base is as solid as the asphalt on top.
But now, you're a Milford boy, you're looking out for Milford. The utilities don't have Milford people in it.
No.
So how do you get them? I mean, what you're describing, I can see the emotion of saying this is the right way to do it.
Mhm.
How do you get them to do it the right way and not shortcut it?
With Mary Lane area, they are going to do it the right way. The thing that bothers me is we had water issues up there. We had major flooding issues with some houses, and we fixed it all. And now they're going to tear the road up. So now it has to be put back the same. And that's something that I'm going to have to hold them to. They're going to be responsible for any flooding. But let me go into, you see all the gas work that's being done in town. That's part of the mandate. Every gas main's got to be changed. Every gas service has got to be changed. West Street, all the roads off West Street, they're all dug up. They all have trenches. So I get, every now and then I'll get an interesting call. So I can explain this. When a gas company comes in and they dig a trench the length of the road, it's usually 2-3 feet wide. The way that has to be put back, most of the time, is curb to center line, because the trench is usually on one side. They finish their job, they pave their trench, that has to sit for 6 months. We have to let it settle. The reason being is, if, most trenches in town, and our permit requires you to use a thing called flowable fill. It's basically cement and sand. It does not settle. So if you put that in this trench, you know it's not gonna settle. You can finish pave it. The gas company won't use it. They claim that it locks gas vapors in the ground and is dangerous, so they will not use it. So they just put gravel back. And unless they're compacting that and compacting it correctly and testing it, you're never gonna get the compaction that you would with flow fill. So the way around that is I allow them to finish the trench, pave it, 6 months, we inspect it. If it's still holding, I wait a little longer, because I know it's gonna settle. But finally it comes to a point where you gotta come in, you gotta grind the trench out, you gotta grind, whatever we mark out, basically. If it's center line to curb, you gotta do center line to curb. Grind it out and repave it. So what happens is, some roads aren't that great to begin with, and all of a sudden the gas company did half the road over. So I get calls from residents, why did you come in here and only pave half the road? What about my side of the road? I'm like, so I have to explain to them what happened,
How deep are these pipes? I mean, you're talking 8 inches or?
Oh, no, they're, I'd say 2 feet to 32 inches, typically, a gas
Okay,
line.
so they're substantially below the top
Yeah.
layer.
I would think most of the mains should be about 4 feet, if I'm not mistaken, but they don't seem to be that deep when I look at them. So West Street, they did a gas main there, 5, 6 years ago now. Well, they have to do another one. There's another gas main that has to be replaced on West Street. And I've been waiting to pave West Street now for over 6, 7 years, waiting to get in there and finish that road. But I can't. They're gonna dig it up again this summer.
So, am I right in understanding that you got a road that's 20 feet wide?
Most roads are 28 feet.
28 feet. And they're gonna do 14 of the 28 feet?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a money thing. But on a road like Mariel Lane, like I said, it's 2 years old, they're doing a whole street. I'm not letting them get away with that. We spent $189,000 on that street. And I told them, I spent the town's people here, the tax money, the money came from them, this is their road, they spent $189,000 on this street. You are not coming in here and digging a trench and leaving it half done, because this street is supposed to last me another 20 years. As soon as you break that street and you put a trench in, it's gonna last 5 years. You can't have it.
Well, that and the fact that my home is typically the biggest investment I have.
Mhm.
So putting a zebra stripe down the middle has got to affect the value.
I don't know if streets affect values of roads. I imagine if you have a nicer street, it's if someone wants to buy a house and the street's nice, it's a benefit.
Well,
I'm not sure
I'm
if it
going to look
affects
at your
the value.
house and I'm driving down and I see half the road done and half not done.
Yeah.
To me, it gives me a different impression.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I do drive around a lot of towns, and I go down towns and I drive on secondary roads that I can't believe even exist. I see gravel spots on them. I'm like, what is going on here? We don't do that in this town. I know people complain about our roads, but I've seen way worse.
How
way
do we
worse.
compare to other towns around us?
So we have what we call a asset management plan, and part of that is our streets. This is what I do within the highway department. It has a rating. We rate right now at about a 71, our last rating. So we have consultants come in, they check every road for a fee, and then they update our GIS system, and I can see all the roads and what they graded at. A lot of towns are a little above 70s. They're a higher 70s. So we're about average, I would say.
Okay.
But I find the more you go west of Milford, you go to Uxbridge, you go past Uxbridge, the roads are much less fixed, I guess. The money's not there. The Chapter 90 funding's not there. A lot of towns don't give their DPWs funding for roads. They only use Chapter 90.
But now, Chapter 90 seems like an enormous, endless supply of money.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, people have a hard time. What did we get last year?
625,000.
So just over $500,000, 600,000. And what does it cost? I remember when you were talking about Purchase Street and what it would cost to put 2 sidewalks running up Purchase Street.
Oh,
And-
right now? Oh. Well, if you say you go from Dilla Street to Ivy Lane, that would be about $300,000-400,000.
Yeah.
So I do have a lot of people that ask for sidewalks. It's just not affordable. I can't do it. We don't have the money. I mean, we have another fund called Complete Streets, which the engineering, we have to use engineering on those projects. That eats up most of that money. So when it comes down to do a project, you don't have a lot of money. We did Plains Park. If you notice, we did some sidewalk work there. We did a new crosswalk, did some paving, all streets, new street signs, speed zone signs. That ate up all the money. And we did a crosswalk down at Walden Woods, and that pretty much ate up the money.
Is granite curbing the preferred choice?
Yeah, for durability and longevity, yeah.
Because we got whatever they call the Cape Cod berm.
Cape Cod's all right too. It has its benefits.
Well, it seemed to go away after a few years that the
wears
trucks ate it up.
It wears out. But it's very expensive. Granite curb right now is about $49 a foot. Yeah, it's very expensive. So
I guess Mr. Braza was kind to me when he put granite running up my driveway because I didn't
Yeah.
think it was that expensive.
it hovered around $29 a foot for the longest time, and now it's $49. It's almost impossible to do. So asphalt's the next choice. Asphalt berm is about $5 a foot. If we do some neighborhoods we have, it's what's called a monolithic berm. It comes out of the paving machine. So when paving your street, a little door opens and you get a little slope berm, like Cape Cod berm. That's the cheapest way to do it. That's probably $2 to $3 a foot. So we do that a lot now. And you'll see us going to neighborhoods and they have slope granite, and the granite's really a mess. It's sinking, it's popping up. We'd have to rebuild it all. We just take it out. We take it out and put slope curb in because it's just easy. It's no maintenance, and it's easy to deal with for us. It's less expensive. You know, unfortunately, people lose the granite in front of their house, but it's just overall, it's a better thing.
Yeah, like I say, I just had my driveway redone and had the granite put down. This looks nice,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
How long's your driveway?
400 feet. But I only had about 100 some
Times
foot of
$50.
it.
$20,000 to put in granite on your driveway.
Well, we didn't do the whole length. It was maybe 150 feet or so.
Yeah.
But it looks nice. But again, I'm doing 150 feet, not
Yeah.
how many miles.
So imagine when you're doing a road and doing miles. We can't do it. We just can't do it. That's where most of the money in our Complete Streets program went to the granite curb on Cedar Street. It was big bucks. So on a street like that, you have to do it. High speed, snow plowing. I mean, we plow those streets twice as much as we plow the secondaries, and they have to be able to take the beating.
So how was it? I mean, everything we hear about the labor shortage in every area, how was it for plowing this? Even though we didn't have to plow much, but
It was tough. I'm glad we got no snow. I'm telling you, we have 28 outside contractor routes. And for the most part, each route has 2 to 3 trucks on it to keep up with bigger snowstorms. We had 5 empty routes this year. We could not fill 5. And we had no one to plow.
so what happens?
Well, if you have a route with 2 trucks, you take one off and you have to put one on another route, which kills the route, that the other 2 trucks were doing because it takes them forever to do
But
it.
now, we have a lot of Scotty toys, big
Yeah,
trucks.
Yep.
How many of those do we have plowing?
So we have 7 mainline routes. Most of them are 1-truck routes. The trucks have wing plows on them. They can do faster job than 2 trucks. We have a couple that have 2 wing plow trucks. Cedar Street, Fortune Boulevard, huge roads. There's 2 wing plow trucks on those. We have multiple 1-ton trucks, pickup trucks, and they're all on our mainline routes also. We have 2 front-end loaders that have wing plows, which have actually worked out unbelievably. They do 3 routes, 3 secondary routes where our outside contractors would be. They can do 3 routes in a time, 2 trucks can do 1.
So how many pieces of highway department gear do you have on the road on an average snowstorm?
9 big trucks. We have 3 highway department 1 tons, 2 park department 1 tons, cemetery 1 ton. We were lucky enough to get 2 water company trucks this year, or water department trucks. Hopefully we get more next year. It seemed to work out okay. And then we have a couple Parks pickup trucks. We have 2 highway pickups, but those are our foremen that run around checking stuff. They're in the pickup
And
trucks.
how many highway employees do you have to drive them?
We have 15 full-time employees.
And do you use Parks Department people too, or?
Right, but for the most part, it's an even thing. They drive their trucks. Some of them drive our trucks, but if you took their trucks and put their guys in, that would fill their trucks. We have 2 cemetery guys, so one of them drives the cemetery truck, one of them drives one of our trucks. So we have, at the highway department, between loaders, sidewalk tractors, 4, 9, 14, we have about 27 pieces of equipment, only 15 people. So we hire a lot of part-timers. Couldn't get any this year. We could not get part-timers. I have 1 guy that has been a part-timer there forever who loves it.
But why? I mean, if they've been plowing, I mean, I
I don't
remember
know.
the days you used to tell me you had 60 outside people with trucks.
We're in the 50s now, I guess about 52. Because every time I buy another piece of equipment, it gets rid of some of those people. I don't need them, which is working out because we don't have them. So even the new loader I just bought, again, it's going to have a wing plow.
But
that's
what
3
changed the paradigm? I mean, if
I
I've
don't
been
know.
plowing for years,
loaders. I don't know.
why all of a sudden do I say no?
Some towns, in order to get drivers, or even outside contractors, are paying a $2,000 sign-on bonus. They give them $2,000 to sign up. The state does that. That's what they have to do now. I don't know where the people are. So we did something similar. I don't do a sign-on bonus. I do a perfect attendance bonus. You sign up with the town of Milford, you come in every storm and you plow, you'll get a $1,000 bonus at the end of the year. It's
I
what
like
we
that
have to
better.
do. Yeah, we have to do that. Now I have 52 outside contractors, 52 pieces of equipment. That's $52,000 I had to
Yeah.
spend. It's
No, but
stinks.
I'd rather reward good behavior.
Yeah, makes sense. To give this money to someone who hasn't done anything yet is not even legal, I don't think. But
And what happens if they leave?
exactly.
Do you go sue them to get the money back? And
No, I don't know. I chose to do it differently. And I got a couple extra guys for that. You know, it's nice, especially a winter like this. They barely worked. Here's a check for $1,000. They didn't do anything. They didn't break their truck. They used no fuel. Unfortunately, it's the way it is.
It's going to average out with a couple years ago we had 26 major storms.
Yep.
It was every other day.
Thank God it wasn't this year. Oh man, we would have been in trouble. I'm telling you, we were hurting. But no part-timers, no outside contractors. It was tough.
So now, stormwater. Every year, along about May, we hear the woes of stormwater mandates.
The never-ending mandate.
I mean, we hear about Brooks. Used to be the Godfrey. I mean, you had those words that made you shudder.
Yeah.
You know, if they came before Brook, you started thinking of how much extra money.
Yeah, so, well, Godfrey Brook's still there. We actually have a FEMA project hoping to kick off this summer, sooner than later. So it's between West Street and Water Street. The entire brook will be replaced. It's really in rough condition. It's caving in. A decent rainstorm, a 2 or 3 inch rainstorm, the water will come over the top and flood everybody downstream. So
I
we
thought
hope
we
to
did
fix
that years ago.
We did a section off of West Street, which is still there, still good.
Well, it was Lawrence Street to Water Street.
That was a different project. We did water south, so we did water to,
I remember
All
going
those
to West
side
Street,
streets over
seeing the erosion within 2 feet of some poor person's house.
yeah. Yeah, there's areas that we've fixed, there's sections that we've done. We've done a couple culverts where the roads go over. So when we do this section from west, it'll be from west where the section we already did, we're connecting to that, all the way to Water Street. So at Church Street, we've already done that culvert, that's new, so we tie into that. And then behind the Verizon building, the brook behind there, that whole section overflows. It's just not doing it, doesn't cut it. So that whole section has to be done. But that's all coming, it's about an $890,000 project. We got 75% of that from FEMA with a grant.
Even better.
Yeah, so we raised a little bit more to get it done.
Now, you talk about words like Central Street Bridge. Do people know there's a bridge at Central Street?
Most don't. They say, where's the bridge? Goes over the Charles River.
I just don't think people understand.
If you walked under that bridge and looked up, you're like, wow, this is a bridge? It's still standing? It's that bad. For years, we've had complaints on Beach Street. And I don't know if you remember this. House is shaking when trucks go by. It was a big complaint. And I remember we investigated. We did everything we possibly could to figure out what was going on. And we never really did find out what was going on. But it's possible it's this bridge. There's a possibility because the bridge has movement in it. You stand on it, you feel trucks go over it. You can feel the whole bridge shake. So I'm hoping doing this bridge, that'll stop some of that problem.
But where is this bridge?
It's right, it would be between the highway department and the old Archer Rubber building.
I was going to say, it's right behind your building.
Yep. It's old. It's old.
So you're going to shut down all of Central Street?
Our traffic plan is to do half the bridge at a time. We're putting box culverts in, so
we can
we'll
still
be able
get
to do
by.
half at a time. So we'll leave one lane open, change the rush hour day, morning and afternoon. Or we may just put a light up. We have one lane. Red light, stop, green light, go. I'm not sure. We have a traffic plan that has to be okay by police department and stuff, so. We want to see that soon. I mean, I'm pushing to get that done. Unfortunately, I think because we started that whole process 4 years ago, I think we raised 1.5 million. The price has gone up. We have a $500,000 grant from DOT. We raised 1.5. I think we're going to need another 200,000. That's what it's looking like.
No, it could have been worse.
It's not bad. But everything's gone through the roof, price-wise.
Stormwater management, the great unfunded mandate.
Mm-hmm.
What's the status?
We were just plugging away. We're doing what we can do. We've been lucky enough to have the Charles River Watershed Association help us out. They have given us funding for stormwater BMPs, and we've got MVP grants through them from the state to do for instance, we did the infiltration system at Town Park. We did the 2 flower gardens at Town Park. Those 2 systems are stormwater BMPs. That's what collects the water.
BMP?
Best practices, best management practices to manage your stormwater. So what that does is it takes the phosphorus out of the water. The infiltration system takes all the water coming down the drainage system on Congress Street, runs it into a basically it's a septic system, tracks the water through the whole system. The first inch of rain is supposed to run into the ground, so it doesn't go down the system. That's the dirtiest water, the first inch of rain. Sometimes you'll have a rainstorm, the water will never come out of the system because it all goes in the ground. So any water that's above and beyond that inch runs back down and goes to the Charles River, but the water's supposedly cleaner. There's no phosphorus in it. There's no pollutants in it.
Where does the phosphorus go?
Into the ground. Soaks into the ground.
Doesn't it eventually build up?
I don't know. That's always my question. Eventually it's gonna, right? Maybe not. I don't know. There's no answer. I don't get that answer. No one's ever given me that answer.
I mean, I remember when I visited a Udalia refinery in Saudi Arabia. They had started stacking up the sulfur they pulled out of the crude. And it was like 12, 14 feet high by as far as you could go.
What do you do with it?
What do you do with it? They said, well, we got plenty of desert. We just keep stacking it up. So I sit there and say, where does the phosphorus go?
Is there going to be day that we're gonna have to dig that system up in the ground and replace the gravel? I don't know. But it does take the phosphorus out. It takes any pollutants out. Everything soaks into the ground. And I think some of the pollutants in the ground get taken care of from the ground itself. You know, it cleans it. But
Well, that's
I don't
like
know.
that catch or that basin, that trench down on Dilla Street. Isn't that what that's for?
yeah, that's a stormwater wetland. Same. It's actually needs to be cleaned out right now. It's not working correctly. That's a project we got to get on soon. So what that does is it takes all that water from, it comes down from Ivy Lane area and Upper Congress Street. All that water ran directly into the river right there. So we bypass it through that wetland first. Again, takes the first inch of water, soaks that into the ground, and any other water goes down the pipe and back out to the river. It's a little more complex system than we have at Town Park. There's 3 ponds, and they'll always see water in it, but it should never overfill. And actually, because it's not working correctly at the moment, it needs to be cleaned out. It almost did. It gets to a certain point, it actually overflows into the river. It's designed to do that. But again, that's maintenance. This is the problem with stormwaters. We pay all this money to put these in. That system takes out like 4 or 5 pounds of phosphorus per year.
Wow.
4 or 5 pounds. We have to remove 1,700 a year. And that at the time cost us $400,000.
I was going to say 4 or 5 pounds sounds like a lot, but it's a fourth
not.
of what, yeah.
It's not compared to what we have to remove. And I think it's been lowered down. I think we're at 1,400 a year now. But
Still,
if you spend $400,000 to remove 4 or 5 pounds, the infiltration system is, I want to say it's 12 to 15 pounds, and that was a $250,000 system. It would have been if we had to pay someone to do it, but luckily we have very talented highway department workers, and we did it, and that saved a huge amount of money. And that's what we're going to plan on doing in the future. We're going to keep trying to do them ourselves as much as we can. You know, paying for materials is cheaper than paying for all the labor and the prevailing wages and all that. So it's definitely the route I want to take.
and then in your spare time, you took on joining the Parks Department too.
Yeah. Well, I was in the middle of a project. We were setting up a project at Town Park. You know, I wanted to be involved in the Parks Department because we're using Parks Department land to do our project. You know, I thought it was the right thing to do, you know.
Well, we
And
appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
just
I enjoy it. I really do.
a full-time job and a secondary, God bless.
Unpaid job. I don't get paid for that one. That's not how it works. So, but you know, they're in my building. I want to see a Parks building built, whether it's on the highway department land, on the property, connected to the building, in the building. I don't care. I
Well,
want to see something built.
You know, my opinion's always been consolidate.
Yes.
It'd be best to have you and the Parks Department and
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
else together, because then you can share the resources, share the maintenance.
Right, we're already doing that now. They were doing a lot more of their maintenance for them on vehicles. That's still my goal, you know, before I
Yep.
finish up as a highway surveyor. I want to have a maintenance department for all departments. I see the savings in that. It's
Well, we
worth
started
every
with
penny.
the fuel, where
Mhm.
now you got a central purchaser of fuel and dole it out, and we get to take advantage of the economy of scale.
Yep.
Well, it'll be interesting come the fall when we have you back. Hopefully next year's.
Talk about leaves, right?
Talk about leaves. We're not going to talk about leaves today, but that leave program's got to be one of the most popular programs we have.
It is, and it's time to rebuild it. And I have a plan. Obviously, in my capital plan, you know, I have another leaf vacuum on that. And as soon as we can see that clear and get that done, we are going to do a different system. We are going to do a weekly, I guess a daily system. So every Monday we go to your street, every Tuesday we go to your street. That's the way it's going to work. It's going to be like trash
It'd
pickup.
be great to hear. And as always, I hope you've learned something tonight about what's going on. Thank you to our 6 loyal viewers for watching, and may God bless, and may tomorrow be a better day than tonight. And thank you for everything you do.